for attending. Please be advised, North Frontenac Council meetings are recorded. By attending a public meeting of council, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded. Members of council, staff, delegates, and attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and or unacceptable behavior or comments. We begin this gathering by acknowledging and celebrating these traditional lands as a gathering place of the First Peoples and their ancestors who were entrusted to care for Mother Earth since time immemorial. We do so respecting both the land and the Indigenous people who continue to walk with us through this world. Today, the Township of North Frontenac is committed to working with Indigenous peoples and all residents pursue a united path of reconciliation. So this is a public council meeting, and the intent is to acquire public comments on certain bylaws and proposals. So we'll begin this with the approval of the agenda.
Moved by Councillor Good, seconded by Councillor Hudel. Be it resolved that council approves the agenda for the public meeting regarding amendments to the fees and charges bylaw held May 15th, 2025 as circulated.
Any comments? In favor? Carried. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none. Item 4, proposed amendments to fees and charges bylaws. Draft bylaws to be considered. We just read this right there. Resolution 39324 EV chargers, Resolution 8725 cemetery fees, Resolution 111-25 building permit fee refunds. Is there anyone with comments on any of these proposed bylaws? Is there anyone online?
Nobody online.
Thank you, everyone. So now we'll adjourn the meeting.
I don't know if there's anyone in public that wanted to make a comment.
Yeah, so anyone in the council chamber wants to make a comment?
Moved by Councillor Good, seconded by Councillor Hudel. Be it resolved the council adjourns the public meeting at 5:03 p.m.
Comments? In favor? Carried. The meeting is closed. Brings us to our regular council meeting for Thursday, May the 15th, 2025. We've already covered the public notice regarding recording of meetings and traditional land acknowledgement. Approval of the agenda.
Moved by Councillor Good, seconded by Councillor Hudel. Be it resolved the council approves the agenda dated May 15th, 2025 as circulated.
Are there any comments? In favor? Carried. Any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none. We have no business profiles. We have a presentation from Steve Pegram, Chair of the Frontenac OPP Detachment Board, Annual Report 2025. Steve, welcome. I'll give you the floor.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of council. For those who don't know me, my name is Steve Pegram. I'm a Bedford District Councillor in South Frontenac, and I am currently the chair of the Frontenac OPP Detachment Board. Staff Sergeant Underhill, who is the detachment commander, unfortunately had other commitments tonight and was unable to attend. The Community Safety and Policing Act requires that an annual report be presented to our municipal councils and band council on or before June 30th each year. And this is what brings me here today. As this is our first year operating under the new legislation, it is my intention today to provide council with a high-level overview of the Community Safety and Policing Act and the changes that it has brought to police oversight, the composition of the board, and the role of the board itself, along with some yearly statistical highlights. I will be happy to take questions as we progress through the slides, or if preferred, at the end of the presentation. Here are the current members of the Frontenac OPP Detachment Board. You will note that there are currently 2 vacant positions. The process of appointing a second provincial appointee is underway. However, I'm unable to provide a timeline for when this position will be filled. We are also in discussions with representatives of the Ministry of the Solicitor General and the Chabot-Abajuan First Nation regarding their representative. And I anticipate that this position will be filled before our next meeting in June. Here is an overview of the area police by Frontenac OPP, along with their current staffing complement. As we all know, the detachment is responsible for policing a very large geographic area, and the population within this area increases by roughly 50% during the summer months. First technical glitch. Here we go. After first receiving royal assent in 2019, the Community Safety and Policing Act officially came into force on the 1st of April, 2024. The Act imposes obligations on boards and restructures policing oversight regimes within the province. It is common for a single OPP detachment to provide policing services to several municipalities. Previously, one detachment might have had oversight from several different boards rather than a single board, which is now the case. This single board provides independent civilian oversight from a detachment-wide perspective, and this helps to ensure that residents receive a consistent quality of policing across the entire detachment area. Ontario Regulation 135/24 under the Community Safety and Policing Act establishes the Frontenac OPP Detachment Board to oversee the provision of these services. The Inspector General of Policing was created to monitor boards and to ensure compliance with the Act itself, and also to investigate certain complaints relating to the board or its members. Detachment boards operate at an arm's length and as a standalone entity. Due to this requirement of the Act, they must have their own budget, maintain their own records, and also have independent legal counsel. Here are some of the roles of the Detachment Board. In addition to participating in the Detachment Commander selection process, the board completes an annual performance review of the detachment commander, and this report is ultimately forwarded to the East Region Commander. It should be noted that while the board works collaboratively with the detachment commander to establish policing priorities and objectives, these must also align with the OPP's overall objectives, which are established by the OPP Commissioner himself. For those of us on municipal council, this is similar in a lot of ways to how our official plans must align with the county's OP and ultimately with the provincial policy statement. While the board can establish policing priorities, it cannot instruct the detachment commander on how to accomplish these priorities or on how to deploy his or her resources. The local action plan is the key document that outlines how policing will be provided, and it contains the local priorities and objectives for the detachment. As noted in the slide, the current plan expires at the end of this year, and work is currently underway on the new plan. Under the regulations, a board must prepare annual estimates setting out its expenses. This is the first year the board's as this is the first year, the board's budget is estimated to be $50,300. I anticipate that moving forward, the board will have a better understanding of its ongoing expenses as it sets its annual budget. As we are getting our budgeting established, any budget surplus will be transferred to operating reserves to a maximum of 50% of the current year's operating expenses. This reserve fund will be utilized to offset any yearly deficit, such as unforeseen legal fees, etc. The honorariums paid to board members include such things as mileage expenses and meeting attendance, and the completion with provincially mandated training programs. Of note that in order to be a member of the board, mandated programs must be completed in advance. And the duration of these 4 modules comprises about 12 to 16 hours, and there are tests at the end of each module. Members of the board also participate in annual compliance review with the Inspectorate of Policing. During our budgeting process, the CAOs were consulted on the budget itself, including remuneration. Further, as an option outlined in the Act, it was agreed that the board cost would be shared equally between the 3 municipalities. South Frontenac maintains carriage of board administrative tasks for budget purposes, records management, Freedom of Information Act requests, and RFP and RFQ processes, and so on. In addition to what is outlined on this slide, the Act places legislated obligations on board members to report specified complaints as outlined in sections 106 and 107 of the Act directly to the Inspector General of Policing. These sections of the Act relate to board member misconduct, failures to comply with the Act, or a lack of adequacy and effectiveness of the policing being provided. To date, my experience with the Inspector General has been that they effectively are working to help boards achieve compliance rather than trying to catch anyone making a mistake. Here are some detachment-wide statistics for last year. This is a demonstration of some of the work that detachment members have performed, and this is of course a component of how the board monitors performance. The intent of these final 2 slides is to provide members of council with a snapshot of some of the resources that are available to the detachment should they be necessary. These resources help demonstrate how Frontenac OPP provide our municipalities with adequate and effective policing. That is the completion of my slide presentation, and I'd be happy to take any questions from members of council or mayor.
First of all, thank you, Steve. We appreciate you being here and providing us with the information. Any members of council have questions? Councillor Hermer, then Councillor Fowler.
Steve, I see a lot of similarities between the duties of this board and our former CPAC committees. And it just seems that there's a lot of additional bureaucracy involved here, plus an additional expense to municipalities to achieve this.
Through you, your worship. There are definitely some similarities between the new act and what was formerly the CPAC agreements. I think there are a number of benefits between that the new act brings to police oversight. Some of which I'll just outline a few of them. Certainly for North Frontenac, it effectively gives you a greater voice when setting policing priorities for the detachment. It involves you directly with the creation of the 2-year detachment action plan. Being involved in the selection of the detachment commander is similar to what was arranged in the past. It also provides involvement in the review of the detachment commander. Quarterly statistical reports identify trends in areas of concern that are used to help when we are developing policing priorities for the detachment. And I think when you have a board that represents the entire detachment, it helps ensure that policing is being provided effectively and efficiently across the entire detachment area versus what could be a municipality to municipality basis. I think like anything that's new, there's going to be some growing pains. There certainly are some more administrative responsibilities that come under the new act, and there are more stringent reporting regimes and oversight through the Office of the Inspector of Policing. I think these are good things. And I think as time goes on, all of the municipalities will come to realize the benefit of having the detachment board process under the new act.
Counselor Fowler.
Yeah, thank you very much, Stephen. It's good to see you again. The fees that each municipality has to pay, how is that determined, and where did it originate? Did it originate from the OPP command unit, or is it something that came up some other way?
For your worship, if you just clarify, when you refer to the fees being paid, are you talking about how the budget is paid for, or the cost of OPP policing?
Well, the cost of OPP policing is a separate thing, and we didn't realize it, but when we had to, a couple of weeks ago, found out how much our municipality had to pay into the police board itself. I was just wondering how that was determined, that amount of money.
Well, the board itself sets the budget for the year. And like anything else that's new, when you're setting a budget for the first time, it's difficult to have a really good grasp of what your expenses are going to be. And I think as we move forward, once we have a better understanding of how things fall out year after year, we will be able to refine our budget as accurately as possible. Having said that, there are going to be some expenses that are incurred that weren't incurred previously under the old format, specifically when we have to retain independent legal counsel. And as we all appreciate, it doesn't take many conversations with lawyers before your budget is exhausted. So I can see that as being something we're going to have to monitor carefully. In terms of how the decision for how the budget was split between the municipalities, the options for how that can occur is outlined directly in the regulations of the act itself. And there was an agreement in this case that as one of the options that the municipalities would split this cost equally amongst themselves. I think it's there are obviously would be some questions when you look at the size of one municipality compared to the other, and you might ask yourself, so why is it split equally? But I think there are some responsibilities, as an example, as I outlined for South Frontenac, where South Frontenac undertakes a lot of the administration responsibilities for the maintenance of the board itself, which occupy a lot of time from the clerk's department and from the treasury department as well.
Yeah, my other question was, I noticed that the Frontenac Islands isn't involved in this, police detachment. Do you know who looks after them?
Sorry, could you repeat that, please?
Frontenac Islands, the township, Frontenac Islands. They're not mentioned in this detachment.
No, they're not. They're policed by leads in the Thousand Islands detachment of the OPP.
Anyone else? Counselor Hoodle?
Thank you, Steve, for the presentation. And I'm not sure if you can answer this question, but you mentioned it, so I'm going to ask it. You talked about resources of the OPP, handle resources in the area. And then you also mentioned that in the summer months, we balloon in residents. So are the resources changed between summer months and winter months?
Yes, the OPP have, in the summer months, they have a number of their units that are assigned only in the summer months in terms of patrols of your lakes. In the winter times, you'll have the snowmobile patrols. These are additional units that are brought in from the East Region. Now they cover all of East Region, so they're not here the entirety of the summer or when the trails are active, but they do move in and out of the area during those months.
So I guess that's one of the concerns we have here. If you talk about different lake associations there, that we don't see much marine units up in this area at all.
Well, I think through you, your worship, I think the reality is, I'll just speak from South Frontenac's perspective because that's what I'm most familiar with, but South Frontenac has 75 lakes. Central Frontenac has a great number of lakes, as do North Frontenac. So yes, you're only going to see the OPP marine units on an infrequent basis based on the fact that there are so many water bodies and only so many people able to patrol them.
Yeah, when we talk to residents in this area, we always talk about, value for money, and we pay a lot to the OPP. I'll just leave it at that.
Well, I will attempt to answer that. I think one of the benefits of the OPP is when you have something that happens, whether it be an emergent nature or an investigative nature after the fact, the OPP itself, because of the size of the organization, has resources available to them that are not available to a lot of municipal police services. In fact, many municipal police services, in order to meet adequacy standards that are required under the Act, rely on contracting out to the OPP to cover some of those services. The fact that this municipality and Frontenac detachment utilizes the OPP, those resources are effectively available to your residents at no additional cost.
So I'm not suggesting we create a municipal police detachment. I would just like to see more faces of the OPP up here.
Wayne?
Yeah, I live on a lake and I've seen the OPP on that lake a lot. And I've seen them on other lakes I've been fishing on because I've been stopped on different lakes. So I think they're up there a lot more than what you would consider if you do live on a lake and it's any size of a lake. I think they're here quite a bit.
Anybody else? Counselor Regent? Okay, 2 comments. First of all, I've made several calls to the OPP about certain areas based on our issues, based on residents' input, and they have responded very quickly. And I was impressed with that. So you can carry that back to Mr. Underhill. Secondly, considering you're a counselor for South Frontenac, thank you very much for South Frontenac dedication, not only taking care of a lot of the nuts and bolts with this initiative, but for a lot of others. We rely on them for a lot of things. So they do a good job. So you can carry that back to your mayor and your council as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I appreciate the time this evening. And should any of you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out to me in the future. And it'll be interesting to see as we proceed from one year to the next, how this annual report develops. I can see it being more specific to things that have occurred within the municipalities from one year to the next. But I think for this first year, I just wanted to provide you with an overview of the act itself and some of the changes that have occurred. Thank you.
Drive safe.
Moved by Counselor Good, second by Counselor Hudel, be it resolved, the council receives for information the presentation from Steve Pegram, Chair of the Frontenac OPP Detachment Board, and thanks him for his time spent today.
Any final comments? In favor, resolution? Carried. Okay, item 7A, delegations. Shabamika Lake Association, Laura, Brad? Does it say OPP on it? Thank you. Go ahead, the floor is yours.
Oops. Now we're live. All right. I just wanted to start off by introducing Brad Pound. He's been on the council with me for 7 years now. He's an excellent resource, and he's one of the people who lives on the Northwest Shore or the water access side. So he's face to face with all these issues all the time. I'm on the roadside, so for me, it's something I hear about. It's something that Brad lives. So he's along with us. I wanted to start by just saying thank you to the township and council for the longstanding good cooperation that we've had. I know you've read all this, and I'm not intending to read it back to you because you go through that. But Corey and Darwin have been excellent assistants through everything, and Tara, much appreciated all your help. Brooke as well. Just wanted to say that we appreciate the early delivery of gravel this year for the road. It's already there, so that's super. It's been great working with you in the past. So today we're going to be talking about issues in our landing area. So our landing is different from a lot of the other lakes because 50% of our cottages are on the Northwest Shore and don't have road access. So the people use the landing all the time. We do not have a marina, so there is no other place for people to park, store boats, store trailers, etc. for the people on that side of the lake. And we've got, as I said, 50% of our residents, so that's 50 cottages because we've got 100 properties on the lake. And among them, there are about 7 currently who are permanent residents. So being able to have this work properly for our residents and all the day users, because we do have the township beach on the lake, and we do have a lot of day use for fishing and beach access and everything else. We just want to make sure that it works well and it's safe for everybody. So that's what we're talking about today. So the first thing that we wanted to talk about is a proposal to work with you to clean up the area. There have been boats and trailers, for all intents and purposes, abandoned there for years and years and years. So I've been president of the Lake Association for 7 years. And the whole time that I've been on there, people have been saying, there are boats that are, they've been there, they haven't been touched. They're taking up prime space for people who are coming and going. And there are trailers that are in there. So there's one looking at today. It's buried up to the axle in dirt and stuff. It has not moved. But because those cars boats and trailers are there taking space, other people can't use that space, right? And we never really had a way to address the issue because it's on township property, so it's not ours to fix. But now with your new bylaw law or parking bylaw, we're hoping that that's a way that we can address the issue. So we don't want to cause problems for anybody, because we do know that we have some of our cottagers who only come, they're from the States, and with COVID and stuff, they weren't up for a couple of years and they don't come up that frequently. But we do want to get rid of the things that might have been abandoned from previous owners as properties have been sold and, are not ready to be used. So what we're asking today is for you to consider working with us and setting up a system where we could tag all the boats and trailers, and then reach out. So you can tag them, we can tag them, we can figure out those details. But then we'll reach out to all our members, and we've got our membership list, we've got a WhatsApp group, we've got a website. We'll reach out through all those mechanisms to people to say, okay, this is the date that we've agreed to with council. Please either identify your item as being in use or, remove it, or on whatever day it is, we will remove it. So we'll work with the township to have the permission and we don't want to inconvenience anybody who is actually using the space, but we do need to clean things up. But we're willing to do the work of, with your permission, getting rid of the stuff that is not claimed and not identified. So we're not asking for the township to put in the time and energy and money to do it. We're just looking for the permission to work with you and address the issue. So most of the boats that are there are metal, so they could either be, put up and, like we could have a garage sale day. If these boats are up for grabs, if you want to have them, yeah. Come on over and grab a boat. They're not in the greatest shape, but I think some of them will still hold water. But otherwise we can work with metal recyclers to come and pick them up and get rid of them. So we're willing to take on that time and energy. One of speaking to a couple of our cottagers today, and they said that they had seen people from the township going over and doing an audit and looking at it. So I appreciate the interest that you've taken in that. So that's our first proposal. Would you prefer to do questions at the end on everything? Okay. So the next thing we want to talk about is lighting. So right now there's one light and it's right over by where the boat launch is, but there's no lighting where the majority of the parking happens. So we have had issues of cars' windows being smashed, of things being stolen from vehicles. We've got people coming up, after dark and with their family and stuff and unloading, and it's absolutely pitch black. So we're proposing to put lighting in the two places that are marked with the blue arrows to light it up, make it safer. And after I spoke to you, Mayor, I went down and met with Officer Underhill down there and explained the situation, and he fully supports the putting in of lighting and video cameras, if you agree to that, to try and make it less prone to criminal activity and safer for everybody. So so our proposal is Brad has bought 2 metal light posts. So they're sitting at his house right now. But we would like permission to put in the bases and install the light posts, and we'll put on solar powered motion and darkness activated lights so that they won't be on all the time. They'll just be on when somebody is there after dark. So it makes it safer for people to come in and out. And if somebody is moving around, then they will be seen, and that should be a deterrent factor. Again, we'll do all the installation and handle all the costs. And then, so those are the posts, we'll paint them. And then lastly, around the landing area, there have been people who go and sit there, day users, and set up picnic tables, and they're there for hours and hours. And we've noticed at other landings, there was signage to say 15-minute use only for loading and unloading. And we'd like to put up equivalent signage in the area. Those are our 3 requests.
Thank you for taking the time to come and enlighten us. Are there any questions from council? First of all, Councillor Fowler, then Councillor Hoodle.
Yes. Councillor Fowler, sorry.
Most of the boats that have a number on them is registered, are controlled by the Marine unit for the federal government. Whereas, like I had an experience when I was on the police force where we had a boat that was derelict, and we had to, it was seized, and it had to pass through a system where the federal government would say, oh, it's okay to get rid of the boat, because they had to auction it off. And it took a long time, it took over a year for it to happen. And if you've got boats like that you want to deal with, you might come across that problem.
Thank you.
Hoodle?
2 quick questions. Thank you for the presentation. Oh,
Can you respond to it?
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry, Brad or Laura, whoever.
So through your worship, Mr. Fowler. Most of the boats on our lake are not that large, so they're usually 14 feet, 12 feet, and they don't have to be registered. They're under a 10 horse outboard. So most of them are 9.9, 6 horse, 8 horse. So those boats are not registered that are there.
Yeah, they're essentially rowboats, and small runabouts.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know that, but thank you.
Councillor Hoodle.
okay. When seasonal people come up for the whole summer, do they just leave their trailer there? Is that part of the deal?
Go for it, Brad.
Well, so right now sorry, I have a 16-foot trailer there because I brought up my side-by-side for the weekend. My truck's in your parking lot, my trailer's sitting with the side-by-side in the parking lot at the lake. I haven't anywhere to put it because
I'm asking, there's no other
Yeah.
parking spot.
no, there's
right?
not. So it's sitting in the parking
Yeah.
lot. The problem is kind of twofold. The township graciously expanded the lot, smoothed it out, made it bigger, but the old saying, you build it and they'll come. So now we have a lot of trailers that aren't necessarily from the lake's access side that other people are just leaving there for the summer because big parking area.
And the other question I wanted to ask, and this is the concern on our lake also, you had mentioned that people come there for day use. And we have that at our boat launch also, so maybe this is a question to staff, is that allowed in the township? I mean, it's public property, correct?
Yeah, it is permitted. Good point, though, it's not permitted to block the access point or the launch area, so yes, we don't have any rules. If they want to go and swim at the launch for the day or do it's public access, that's permitted, but reasonable, I mean, if they're blocking the access, that's not okay.
Yeah, at our boat launch, what they do is they set up their chairs and tables to the right of the boat launch. So people still can go in and out, but at the same time, they're parking there and it's hard to turn around at our launch, right? So
Yeah.
probably an issue at many nice boat launches.
Yeah, our launch is actually quite small. It's like one pontoon size, maybe 2 little runabout size. So it doesn't take much usage to block it effectively. And we do have a lot of people coming in and out constantly.
Anyone else first? Councillor Fowler.
Regarding the lighting that you have there right now, who pays for the electricity?
Hydra?
So it's a pole light, the hydro's installed, so I guess we're all paying for it. So it's maintained and paid for by Ontario Hydro. Hydro One now.
It's actually a township light that the township pays for. It's been there for years and we put it in years ago. And if it's repairs or whatever, we call Hydro One and have it fixed, but it's the township pays for that.
Oh,
Bonus.
yeah. We just knew that there was, there were outages, along the lake and somebody drew the attention to the hydro worker that the light wasn't working. And all of a sudden they fixed it. So,
Yeah, they're great that way, but we pay the hydro and it's something that came up probably 20 years ago, Wayne, I bet you, that we would have had that installed there.
well, thank you very much for that.
Anybody else? I have been there in the middle of summer and the aerial picture of that boat launch is really deceiving. You can hardly drive in there. There's so many units and there's trailers into the trees and into the bush.
Yeah,
Whatever.
that's a very off-season picture.
Yes. And I know we have, the Lake Association has talked to Corey and staff here about how do we expand this? How do we keep going? And how do we police it and so on? So this isn't new. But my only question to you is solar lights, are they going to be bright enough? How long do they last?
So we've looked at them. I mean, LED and solar has come a long ways.
Okay,
So
fair.
it appears as if the ones we're looking at are adequate for our needs.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate your time. We have a resolution. We will discuss it and make a decision.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pete. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Moved by Counselor Good, second by Counselor Hudel, be resolved the council receives for information the presentation from Laura Logan and Brad Pound, Shabamika Lake Association regarding security improvements for the Shabamika Lake landing and parking area. And the council thanks them for their time spent today. And that per the procedural policy, requests from delegates shall be deferred until the next regular meeting, and council instructs the manager of community development to look into the request and provide recommendations to council.
Any final comments? In favor of the resolution? Carried. Item 8, adoption of the minutes.
Moved by Counselor Good, second by Counselor Hudel, be it resolved that council adopts the minutes of a regular council meeting held April 25th, 2025 as circulated.
Any comments on this resolution? Seeing none, in favor? Carried. Item 9A, resolution 15025, monthly usage reports of electric vehicle chargers.
Moved by Counselor Good, second by Counselor Hudel, whereas at the meeting held April 25th, 2025, council passed resolution 15025, instructing the manager of community development to provide monthly usage reports of the EV chargers to council. Now therefore be resolved, the council receives for information the April 2025 usage report.
Any comments? I have one question, Shale. How long does it take Brooke to put this together? Sure,
About 2 minutes.
that's it,
It's
okay.
very, very quick.
Okay, I was
Very
going
easy.
to suggest after a few months we go down to every quarter, but we'll leave it. John's not here to argue about it, so, okay. Any other, well,
But I was gonna bring it up also, but I mean, do we really need to see this every month? Maybe just for the first few months to see how it goes, but anyway, it's just my comment.
I agree, but let's leave it the way it is for now, and I don't think we should make a decision on this or discuss it until John is back, so. Anyway, any final comments? In favor of the resolution? Carried. Communications, clerk's administrative report, communications A section.
Moved by Counselor Hudel, second by Counselor Hermer, be it resolved that council receives for information section A items of the clerk's administrative report entitled communications of interest.
Any comments? In favor? Carried. Communications of interest, section B, we don't have any, so that item's done. Item 11A, fire protection grant 2024-25 update and additional available funding.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, second by Counselor Hudel, be it resolved that council receives for information the Director of Emergency Services Fire Chief's Administrative Report entitled Fire Protection Grant 2024-2025 update and additional available funding. And the council instructs the Director of Emergency Services to sign the transfer payment agreement for the additional funding being offered of $361,073. Or sorry, $361.73 available for year one to help cover the cost of installing the new PPE extractor at the Clarendon Miller Fire Station.
Okay, any comments? Counselor Hoodle?
Just two comments. What is an extractor, Adam?
So, Mr. Mayor, through you, it is a term used to describe a washing machine that has greater capacity and ability to better clean and decontaminate personal protective equipment.
Okay, thank you. And this $361, where is this coming from? And just explain.
Sure, Mr. Mayor, through you, it was an additional funding provided by the province to successful grant applicants to help with the initiatives, projects, whatever it was that the municipalities were approved for.
So I guess my question is, why is this even coming why is this coming to council? It's $361. It seems such a small amount.
We got $24,691 in grant, and it's a $360 shortfall. So this has to come out of the cost of $361.
I get that, but it's only $361. Why? No, it's not. Okay, I see Kelly shaking her head.
Yeah, part of the second or the additional process was to table it before council if that was our requirement, just to seek approval to sign the agreement.
I know, but it just seems such a small amount. Why does Adam even have to come and ask for permission from?
It's actually a part of the grant. Province requires it.
Oh.
That's why.
Just seems like a lot of red tape for a small amount of money. That's all. I'm trying to save you some time, Adam.
Appreciate it.
It has bigger ramifications, though. I understand where you're coming from, but. Okay, manager community, well, so, sorry. We have to do the resolution on that, right? So any other comments? In favor? Carried. So item 11B, manager community development, 2025 community grants applications.
Moved by Councillor Hewell, second by Councillor Hermer. Be resolved, the council receives for information the manager community development's administrative report entitled 2025 community grants applications. The council approves $1,000 for the Off of Plevna Parade and Kids Christmas Party Group for the purchase of presents for the children. The council approves $950 for the Clarendon Central Public School Parent Council for the purchase of 1 hood fan for ventilation, 1 microwave, 2 foldable serving carts, and 1 large stainless steel pot. And the council approves $1,000 for the Kelowna District Historical Society for the enhancement of gardens at the Pioneer Museum. And the council approves $367.28 for the Kelowna Recreation Volleyball Club for the rental and insurance coverage of the gym. And the council approves $1,000 for the Claremore Community Volunteers for the purchase of 6 stainless steel stock pots and 4 plastic folding card tables. And the council approves $1,000 for the Lions Club of Land O'Lakes for the defrayment of the costs of the Santa Claus Parade, the Holly Shop, and Santa's Workshop. The council approves $1,000 for the North Addington Education Center Parent Council for the purchase of iPads. And the council approves $1,000 for the Ampa Community Center Association for the replacement of the community refrigerator in the accessible foyer. And the council approves $1,000 for the North Frontenac Back Road Studio Tour for the purchase of wayfinding and studio signage. And the council either approves or declines, and there's no amount, for the North Frontenac Amateur Astronomy Club to cover the cost of on-site security and advertising costs. Application for funding received from the deadline, received after the deadline.
Thank you, Tara. Comments? Councillor Hoodle? You look like you want to say something.
Yeah, I did, but how much is the astronomy club actually looking for? There isn't a value there, is there? Was there in the application?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So they requested $1,000. The application was received after the deadline. Per the policy, we don't accept them. I did still table it with council. So currently with 9 applications would be $8,300. So there is, if you still wanted to approve the late application and go against the policy, You could approve $682.72 to remain in budget, or you could consider the $1,000 and go over budget, kind of up for council decision.
And how late were they?
One day.
So, yeah, I think we should, well, I would approve.
We do have a procedural bylaw, okay. Counselor Little, just in case. Comments? Counselor Good.
What's this on-site security?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So it's for the annual Festival of Stars where they have security at the event for an all weekend event.
Counselor Good.
So this is what, I think we went through this last year about, that they didn't need security there because they were all so perfectly, behaved.
No, that's not quite right.
They didn't need security last year because they were gonna allow campers there, so the people would be there. But then the weekend got canceled because of rain.
Councillor Regent has a comment, I think.
Counselor Regent.
Thanks, Kelly. My comment was exactly what Councillor Hootle just said. They didn't even get this event last year, and he's absolutely correct what he just said the money was for.
Sorry, Counselor Regent, I didn't hear your last sentence.
I was going to say the exact same thing that Councillor Hootle said. They didn't get their event last year because of rain. It was a big disappointment. This money is for the security for camping overnight.
Actually, those telescopes are worth $10,000 and $20,000 and they're all set up and aimed with their computers and whatever. So when the campers are not there, that's when that's what it's for.
Yeah.
And they were trying to increase the number of users or attendees at the festival by allowing camping, but you're right, the weather didn't cooperate and c'est la vie.
Yeah.
So I guess this, if they don't spend this, or if there's a base amount that they have to spend as a retainer, that's what they're looking for. So what are your wishes, ladies and gentlemen? No, 683 or 1,000? Counselor Fowler?
They do a lot for the township, the North Frontenac Amateur Astronomy Club. I think they do a lot. So we should be able to give them as much as we can.
Mhm.
Is that 1,000 or 683?
I'd say 1,000.
Okay. Counselor Good?
I don't, don't understand what Councillor Fowler is saying. They do a lot, like explain a lot. And I don't think it should be $1,000, 683 is max.
Counselor Regent?
So we promote Summerfest and Winterfest, and that brings in tourists, and that's exactly what this program does. So I think we should give them $1,000. This is a major event in this township. I'm surprised we're even discussing this.
Counselor?
I'd say we're discussing it because it's taxpayers' money and it should be discussed. And I already see in here $10,000 for the Summerfest. So that's already going in there from the taxpayers.
Counselor Hermer, do you have an opinion on this?
Well, I just wonder what financial benefit comes back to the municipality from this.
Okay, so I'm going to step in here. We're promoting, we're talking about economic development and what we can do to bring people here and so on. First of all, we bring in people from all over Southern Ontario, some from the States, some from Quebec. I've worked it, Councillor Fowler has worked it. I know Deputy Mayor Ingles has worked it. There's some great volunteers, Gary Caldwell, Betty Hunter, and a few others. So the idea is to bring people in, expose North Frontenac and what we have to offer to them. Unfortunately, because it's in the evening, there's not a lot of financial benefit, direct financial benefit, but the possibility is there. And for, we talk Summerfest, $10,000 and $6,000 for Winterfest. I think we can't have it both ways. We're either going to promote economic development. It's not a lot of money, $1,000. And if we had been more than a day late, I might have not gone with 1,000, but I think we should do it at least once and see what happens. It could be a lot more impressive event than what it is. I really think our astronomy park is totally underused. That's my opinion. I'm only one voice. So Counselor Fowler, you proposed $1,000. Do we have a seconder for the $1,000? Counselor Regent. Okay, all in favor of $1,000? All opposed? Carried, 42. Thank you, everyone.
Can I just give one last word on this?
You can.
And I've always said this, they come in the dark, they leave in the dark, and they don't leave any money here.
Let's see if we can change that. And I know you've always had that. You haven't changed your position on it. Maybe a little, but not much. And let's see if we can work to make this a little better. Just something else. Come to the Festival of Stars. Yeah, this is North Frontenac. We've got a lot to offer. And when you sit down, and I went to the Economic Development Committee meeting, the last one, and you start adding up everything we've got, it's a lot. It's just one more thing that people may be interested in. I think it's underutilized, but Councillor Hoodle?
Well, what we tried to do last year was have the camping. So they would stay here the whole weekend, and that would possibly get them to go to some of the restaurants in the area for breakfast and maybe dinner in the afternoon. So it would bring some economic development into, but we have to try, and that's what the mayor has been saying.
Okay, so that item is done. Okay, so all right, so the resolution that Tara read previously with $1,000 going to the Astronomy Club, in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Public Works Manager, so now we're in item, what are we, 11C? Public Works Manager, new grant opportunity for the Health and Safety Water Stream Program.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, second by Counselor Hudel, be it resolved that council receives for information the Public Works Manager's administrative report entitled Grant Opportunity Health and Safety Water Stream. And the council approves submitting an application for funding to the Health and Safety Water Stream to deliver stormwater infrastructure repairs, replacements, and upgrades in the village of Plevna. And that the Chief Administrative Officer is authorized to sign the application for funding and agreement if successful. And that council approves the sole source consultant services agreement with the Greer Galloway Group to inspect the stormwater infrastructure, identify needs and costing, and provide a planning report to support the grant application not to exceed $20,000 to be taken from the Infrastructure Sustainability Reserve Fund. And that staff will update council at a future meeting regarding the status of the HSWS application.
Comments? Councillor Hoodle?
Darwin, this is the same application we did last year, correct?
This would be the fourth time I've been back to council with,
So-
the first time was just for Buckshot Lake Road. Then there was the Ardoc Road under a similar program, and then an expanded application for Buckshot Lake Road, including some of the storm sewers in the village.
So why do we need increased engineering reports? Did we not do this before?
No, we didn't do the engineering reports before. And I think the reason I'm back this time, and I'm more hopeful, they've changed the first three grants were contingent on housing and promoting housing and increasing housing. So even, if we were able to identify some properties that would benefit and even if you gain 3 or 4 homes, you're not competing against the subdivisions that are adding a few hundred houses. So I'm optimistic with this one because they've changed the scope and the focus is on health and safety and climate resilience. So that's the other reason for the engineering report, that we can show you we're increasing capacity and how we're protecting the various properties.
Okay, and I liked in your report where you talked about we'll be shovel ready for the next one if we don't get this one. So that was an important thing, because I remember saying in our budget season that, we want projects that are shovel ready. So that's a good comment to put in that report.
So Buckshot Lake Road is shovel ready without the village added to it if there was an opportunity to fund that. And this engineering, those storm sewers went in 1975 and we've really haven't done much except pump them out every second year to clean the catch basin. So there's a lot of, we need to assess the condition, and I'm sure that's going to warrant a bunch of work. And we have inlets that are deficient and outlets are deficient. So that would support, the future program as well.
Any other comments? I had the privilege of listening to Minister Flack earlier this week in Toronto. And there's a budget, whether it's over now or not, and he said, you're going to really like what's in the budget for housing. But we most likely lost the 3 grant applications before, simply because we can't compete. We're gonna generate 4 housing lots for a cost of close to $1 million or 800,000. And in the cities, which are much bigger, $800,000 buys them 30 or 40 or 50 lots. So we always lose in the housing component. So without the housing component in there, although I would mention it, there's some infill lots there. And maybe we have to find Brooke a new place for her public works outlet. But, you know, I think that's a good application or a good opportunity. We shouldn't pass it by. Any final comments? In favor of this resolution? Resolution's carried. Okay. Item 12A, Committee of Adjustment, Planning Advisory Committee.
Moved by Counselor Herbert, second by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved, the council receives for information the minutes of the meeting of the Committee of Adjustment Planning Advisory Committee held March 24th, 2025.
Any comments? In favor? Carried. Item 12B, Economic Development Task Force.
Moved by Counselor Hudel, second by Counselor Herbert. Be it resolved, the council receives for information the minutes of the Economic Development Task Force dated April 22nd, 2025. And the council approves the updated 2025 EDTF work plan.
Comments? I really like the new work plan. I think it's doable, and then from there we can go on to the next one. Okay, in favor of this resolution? Carried. Okay, Joint Health and Safety Committee.
Moved by Counselor Herbert, seconded by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved that council receives for information the minutes of a meeting of the Joint Health and Safety Committee held April 30th, 2025.
Comments? In favor? Carried. The Environmental Task Force, item 12D.
Moved by Counselor Hudel, second by Counselor Herbert. Be it resolved that council receives for information the minutes of a meeting of the Environmental Task Force dated April 29th, 2025. And the council approves the task force providing general information to the public on battery storage projects on the township's website, social media, and to the lake associations, and comments and questions shall be directed from the public to the clerk, who will provide these to the task force for future communication efforts.
Comments? Mr. Hoodle. Your task force.
It's my task force, yeah. So we discussed this at our task force, so we wanted to be very upfront and transparent to the public about what's going on, and this is going very quickly, like much quicker than I thought. We actually had a meeting on, an on-site meeting on Tuesday. I believe it was Tuesday, but anyway, it doesn't matter. So we wanted to be out in the forefront with the public to tell them what's going on. And there was some talk at the task force that we should be putting something on the website and letting the public know what's going on early on. Now, we have a presentation at the next council meeting from the company that's interested in developing this up here. So I think it might be better if we wait till that presentation so we get more information, and that our message is aligned with exactly what's happening, because maybe there's some new things that they're going to bring forward at that council meeting. Now, saying that, people know about this, right? I did a newsletter to our lake association, and it was put in there because everything that we've been talking about is public. But I still think we should wait before the township does something official until after our next council meeting. That's just, I don't want to rush this. We need to get it right, but any opinions would be appreciated.
Any comments? I think there's 2 companies interested now. And I sent a note, well, we'll see. And I sent a note to John this morning indicating that there's another high tension line right in Snow Road, which runs right next to an abandoned gravel pit. And there are 2 other live gravel pits, one by Gemmel Construction and one by Crane. And they're both used, but they're beginning to be depleted. And there's some vacant property that Billions have right in behind there. So I don't know if those lines carry enough spare capacity or whatever, but it's just another idea.
Yeah, they've done a capacity study, so there's only certain lines that have that capacity.
Right.
So not, you see a lot of hydro corridors here, doesn't mean they have the capacity. We're talking about a 140 megawatt project, which is huge. And there's very limited capacity on some of these lines. So the one that, I forget the line, they have a number for it. That's the one they're concentrating on. There are other people interested in other developments, but I'm not aware of where they're gonna go and who are they. We're only dealing with what's available for us, so.
Okay. But at some point, if a private developer with a private owner comes back, we still have to have a say on whether or not that goes into our township.
Yeah, and see this, I don't want to say too much, but one thing we did learn on Tuesday, even if it goes to a private developer, there's still community grants given to the community.
Any other comments?
So we're gonna approve that we supply information to the website, but we would like, I think we should wait until the next council meeting. Do we have to amend that somehow? Yeah.
We should be receiving the information. That's the first one. And that council approves. It doesn't give a timeline for the second part of that. So we're okay.
It's just that the task force wanted to do it ASAP. And I'm thinking if we get direction from council of when to do it, then when we have our task force meeting, I can say, well, council directed it this way.
Council, what are your thoughts? Councilor Good?
I think we should wait until the next meeting and get the information properly to the rest of the township as well in the newsletter. But I'm all for this. It's gonna bring in money for the township, for the taxpayers.
Councilor?
Yeah, and in the committee that's on the task force, they have done an excellent job writing up an information sheet. I just don't want to be premature with this. I think, when I don't even know if we're allowed to say who the company's coming up here to do the presentation, but yeah, Electra from Central, from the GTA area, they're the one interested in developing this project up here. I just really think we need to hear from them directly. And then, because I don't want to contradict we put on the website now, and they come up and say something different in the next council meeting. So,
Well, you want to just amend this motion to just do the first paragraph and not include the second one at all? Just accept it? Basically, we're getting it for information, yes or no, and that's it. And then let the Environment Task Force come back with information at the next meeting? Councilor Region, what's your opinion?
I agree with what Councilor Hoodle's saying. He's got a good grasp of it. Let's follow his lead.
Sure.
So what if we took out the second paragraph and replaced it with, and request the task force to wait until after the next council meeting for a decision before providing information to the public?
Can we take out the next council meeting? Or is that an issue? I don't want to.
well, I think what's going to happen is Electra's going to be here on, is it June 12th, whenever it is, June 12th, our next council meeting. And they will be providing information, and that will be put in the newspaper. And so we want something prepared ASAP to put on our website and to send out to lake associations or what other groups are. We want to be very transparent on this. We don't want to think we're hiding something here. Because at the end of the day, it may not get approved, right? But we have to let the public know exactly what's going on.
Okay, so what do you want to see? You're speaking for your task force right now.
Well, I'm only one person on the task force, right? It's a council decision, and I would wait until the next council meeting and then create a new, and it may be the information sheet that's created right now, but there may be information that we need to add or delete. So I just to be on the safe side, so we don't give false information, I would wait till the next meeting.
So you're fine with Tara's revised resolution?
And the council requests the task force to wait until after the next council meeting for a decision before providing information to the public.
Councilor Good.
I got a question and you don't have to answer it if it's gonna jeopardize anything, but do you have a site picked out now for it? That can handle the,
Yeah, it's public information. So it's 506 ways like
The 506 waste site.
Okay, so Chair, would you do us a favor and read that entire resolution again as you've got it amended?
Be it resolved, the council receives for information the minutes of a meeting of the Economic Development Task Force dated April 29, 2025. And the council requests the task force to wait until after the next council meeting for a decision before providing information to the public.
In favor of that resolution? Resolution's carried. Pardon? Sure.
I invite all counselors and staff to come to these meetings. They are phenomenal meetings. There's a lot of information, a lot of technical stuff that goes on, and they're very informative. If you have spare time, just come out to the meeting.
Okay. I've had the electronic presentation and it's quite a system. I actually thought it was something like a refinery with stacks and smoke and everything else. It is not. It is really slick. Okay. So that's item 12D. We're on to item 13. Does anyone wish to give notice of motion? Counselor Fowler.
Yeah, I have two for I'd like to bring up at the next meeting. One is to have a committee that would review our bylaws and maybe our policy document as well. And have them make any improvements and make future comments or recommendations to council.
You're talking all bylaws?
Yeah.
And you know the procedural bylaw is already under review.
Pardon?
The procedural bylaw is already under review by staff.
Yeah, yeah.
This is the first one. You guys said you have two motions? So all he has to do is announce it and that's it? Or do we?
But we need a seconder to bring that forward.
Do we have a seconder for this resolution proposed notice of motion? Councillor Vermer.
Well, you said it was already under review.
Procedure. Councillor Fowler's motion is all bylaws. The county has a governance bylaw. Or sorry, a governance committee that looks at bylaws, but they're only doing certain ones. They're not looking at 100 bylaws or whatever, so. Councillor Good.
how long would this take staff to do this? Like, this sounds to me like it's too much.
The committee for the county's governance has been at it since January. We're probably looking at, we're only doing 4 or 5 of them. But the procedural bylaw and the procurement bylaw are going to take another 3 to 4 months. It'll be close to a year. I think in one hand it's a good idea, but I'm worried about the impact on staff. We have the procedural bylaw, which is the key one we've got. It's already under review. So Councillor Hermy, you want to say something else?
Well, how many bylaws do we have on the books to review?
I mean, there's many bylaws. Some of them are like one-time bylaws, authorizing someone to do something and that gets done and those bylaws are done. So but we do have a fair amount of regulatory bylaws. We have, and we do review them frequently, and I bring them to you, our sale of land policy, our noise policy, our zoning bylaw, animal control, procedure, code of conduct. So there's gosh, probably 50 at least that you would review regularly. So it would be a lot of work. And we do try as the clerk's department to look at those policies and when they need to be updated to bring them to council, and it was been proposed amendments. And so recently, like 2 months ago, seen the sale of land policy. And I'm working on the procedural policy. So we're really supposed to just talk about whether or not we want to talk about this at the next meeting and not get into the value of it. So I'm not sure if you want me to continue. Okay.
I'd just like to add one thing. I'm referring to the governance committee that we have at the county too, because I'm on that as well with you. But I find that there are certain bylaws that are buried in I don't know if that's the correct phrase, but sometimes they should be reviewed and have a group of people with some little bit of independent thought and a different way of thinking to review them and make recommendations. That's all I'm saying. Is I think it would be good to update everything. There's sometimes there's little errors in them and others are
Thank you, Councilor
unenforceable.
Fowler. We got, thank you. Councilor Hoodle?
Well, the procedural bylaws are already being reviewed, correct? And right, and I think our clerk is correct. When there's issues or updates needed, they bring it forward. And I think that's the time to do it. I don't think there's a special committee needed that needs to go in and dissect all the bylaws and run that.
So it comes down to, do we have a seconder for this proposed notice of motion? Seeing none, that notice of motion will not go forward. Councilor Fowler, you had a second notice of motion.
Yes, I'm concerned about the recent rhetoric that's come up from the United States, but one of the positive things that come out of it is there's a lot of patriotism for Canada that's come forth. And I would like to have a motion to discuss the possibility of having us, when we start our council meeting, to do a pledge. When I lived down in the States, everybody got up and made pledge allegiance to their flag. And I always thought that was something that was really good. And I'd like to see us to come up with some kind of thing like that that we can say at the beginning of our meetings, and it could go along with the traditional land pledge. We can work it one and then the other one. And it would show us as a council that we are patriotic and we're going to continue to be patriotic.
Comments? Sorry. I need a seconder for that notice. Councilor Herber?
I'll second that motion.
Seconder? Okay. All in favor of that resolution or that notice? Actually, I'm not in favor of that. Okay, that motion is defeated. Okay, anyone else? We have no motions, written notice which has been given. Councillor portfolio verbal reports. Okay. So I actually took some time and wrote this out because there's a lot based on I think there is. Councillor Fowler and I have already alluded to the fact that County of Frontenac is reviewing some of their bylaws. They are a totally different organization than we are. They don't have a lot of the nuts and bolts. They very seldom deal with the public. They don't handle money and so on. So some of the stuff like the procurement bylaw, it needed some work and so on. They just aren't used to doing that. They spent $4 million to renovate the township, or the county offices. They have Fairmont Home coming up. That's going to be $100 million plus. So they have very few items, like maybe one every 5 or 6 years, where we do them all the time. So that one was on the table. The second one is the procedural bylaw, and I find this one absolutely phenomenal. It's different than ours. There is a lot of wordsmithing and so on. The big issue revolves around virtual attendance at meetings. At the county level, it is essentially frowned upon by all the mayors and most of the other council members that Zoom or team meetings are not advisable. Their thought process is that you cannot effectively represent your wards when you're on Zoom and everybody else is in person. Yeah, there are exceptions when you have to do it. And they list a number of exceptions. They actually list the exceptions out. I've asked that one of them be added, like for senior and elder care, because that is affecting all of us at some point in time. But there's a total number. like, I think it's 3, it should be a little more maybe. And they only have 1 meeting a month and no meetings in August. But then they have 2 or 3 or 4 special meetings during the year. And in the almost 3 years I've been there, I have seen 1 counselor, 1 mayor, because she was deathly ill, participate by Zoom. They just doesn't work. So I'd like to see something around that. They also have it for committees. You're either going to participate or you're not going to participate. And they lay it all out. So the idea, it's already there for most of it. Idea is to smooth it out a little. Maybe we should look at it. We'll see. May the 8th, attended the Emergency Management Program Committee here. We talked a bit about the importance of outreach. What happens if you have a forest fire? Who believes what? Centennial Lake showed us 2 years ago what happens when the wrong people get hold of the information and misconstrue it or misinterpret it and start putting it into the public, and with all the best intentions, mind you, but they still do. And who do you believe? How do we reach the public? How do we say it's time to evacuate? All these questions have to be on the table. So we're going to be looking at that. Attended the Frontenac, Leamington, Addington, Ontario Health Team. Those are all Zoom calls. So you have anywhere from 10 to maybe 20 or 30 people on it. They're all on Zoom. And they're 2 hours once a month. And their focus is essentially on, right now, Indigenous inclusivity and equality. They're also looking at the Jane Philpott's pot of money and what they can do to procure some of that. So they made applications for that. On May the 10th, so that's last Saturday, the Frontenac ATV Club held a trail ride. It started in Verona and went up to Wheeler's Pancake House at Lanark. They followed the trail all the way to Clarendon Station, and then because they were going to follow it all the way to Snow Road, but because of the type of highways, like it's paved highways from there to Wheeler's, it really wasn't practical, so they used the back roads. We're talking 60 or 70 ATVs. And it was really done well. They had a lead ATV about half a kilometer out, and that would stop and tell people this group of riders is coming. Pardon? And then the beginning of the first group, they had a large group. They had a couple more trail wardens, and they had them interspace throughout the group. And then they had 2 at the back were stragglers, and one of the bikes did break down. So they actually were towing that and so on. So when you see 60 or 70 of these units come in, it is really impressive. And if you've been to Wheeler's Pancake House, there's this entire circle, and they fill that in circle, plus there was some across the back. It was really good. And the group, so maybe at the very most 200 people, probably less. They had over $1,000 the 50-50 draw. So that was really impressive. The other thing was, excuse me here a minute. They have purchased or have been gifted 1 AFib unit that they're going to be taking with them on the trails. And they're looking to purchase 2 more. So that was interesting as well. May the 12th to May the 13th, I spent it with the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus in Toronto, doing Queen's Park advocacy. Basically what that means is a lot of sitting around and waiting and getting to speak to a minister, or sitting there while someone else speaks to a minister for 20 minutes, advocating for Eastern Ontario. And I just want to share a little bit of information with you. This is the copy, some of the information that we provided. It's kind of interesting. If we lose, because of the tariffs, 10% of the Eastern Ontario economy, we will have economic conditions equal to or worse than what we had at COVID, just 10%. Like Eastern Ontario provides 46% of the agriculture needs of Ontario and is almost self-sufficient. So one page I really want to share here, of course. Here's some of the ideas. The annual sales from the region's producers. Resins and rubber, 6.9 billion. Electrical, 4.8. Agriculture, 4.1. Transportation, 4.1. Residential building, 3.69. Total $23.57 billion. We have two international ocean-going ports, one at Johnston and one that's being expanded down in Prince Edward County, P&H Milling. So I mean, this information is absolutely amazing. And what they've also done is EOWC contacted members agreed last year or earlier this year to identify tracts of land that could be buildable. And they divided them into categories, and they're moving on the first 4 units, the first 4 sites, category 1A. These are ones that are already zoned and ready to go. And this year they're going to do an expression of interest in EORN or EORN. We'll lead that for the OWC. And they hope to attract builders or developers to come in and say, this is what else we need in order to develop these units. And while we're at it, affordable housing came back from one of the ministers saying, no, not really. It's housing that's affordable. There is a difference. Okay. So it was really, really worthwhile going. Did get to meet Doug Forge, so you know, whatever that's worth. So he's just like you see him on TV, just like that. I have written an article on strong mayor powers for the Cache Lake newsletter, which will go out this spring. And I'm currently working with Scott Reed and John Jordan to set up biannual meetings. This is Scott Reed's idea, and John Jordan's on board. And by the way, when we were in Toronto, we accidentally ended up in John Jordan's office, and we had a really good, Kevin Farrell, the CAO for the county, and myself had a really good meeting with him. So that was interesting. Tomorrow, I'm on a Zoom call with the Ministry of Housing, 9 a.m. on the new Bill 17. And then hopefully on Saturday morning, I'll do breakfast at the Clare Mill Hall, support the North Frontenac Astronomy Club. So, any questions on that? Okay. All right, next one up is, I have a meeting set up with First North Lake Associations for later this month. Councilor Good.
Yeah. Their annual meeting? What day is that? I didn't get a notice on that.
I didn't get one last year either.
She said this Saturday? 10 a.m. Beach. Okay, that's okay there. I'm planning on attending that.
Do you have her email to check it out, or should be on the beach, but
Yeah, well, she said it was on the beach.
okay.
Okay, and as far as road closures go, I've been working with Tara on the Happy Landing one.
Okay.
So,
Okay. On Shabamika, usually I end up meeting with her for an hour in the spring when we first come back to Ontario, because we live in Montreal. And then you saw the presentation that resulted out of that. They were having what they considered law and order issues, so we put the OPP in charge. We're in touch with them. That worked out really well. Councillor Regent.
Our next Police Services Board meeting is June 16th, and my next Family Health Team Board meeting will be June. We did add 2 new board members to that team. Beth Hassler, who was a part of NAEC and is now a vice principal, I believe, still in Napanee, but still lives in the area. And Kenny Chatson, I think everyone knows Kenny Chatson, so that's exciting. The Lake Association stuff you're aware of. And that is all I have for now.
So, Councillor Regent, my typical question is what's happening with Dr. Weldon? We've got $95,000 on the table, and we've got a $1,500 or 1,500 patient roster, plus or minus. If the doctor's not happy, and are we doing everything we reasonably can to keep him satisfied?
I believe so. He's picked up twice as many patients as he's supposed to. He's seeing people that have not had a family doctor in over 5 years. He's picked up so many patients, it's almost impossible to get in to see him, which is probably a good thing because some of these people have not had a family doctor in a very, very long time. So I haven't heard anything that he's not quite happy over there. Things seem to be ticking along.
To this end, can you talk to Janice Powell and let us know at the next meeting what the status is? please and thank you.
Yeah, if she will share that information, I'll be happy to share it.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, Counselor Hoodle.
So we had a MVCA board meeting on Monday. The real news, it was a short meeting, but the news for our area is that Cachewack Lake Dam, the tender went out, or the RFP went out in March, and the project was awarded to an engineering company for the construction. So there's a lot of time still before construction starts. It's going to be either fall of 2026 or I guess later on and early on in 2027. Either times will be in non-peak time, so it shouldn't affect people. They will be contacting the Lake Association and letting them know of the timelines for that. Also, we approved a strategic plan that we're going to start in June for the MVCA. The MVCA is going to be holding a mini conference. I'm not sure if it's next week or in 2 weeks, but Brooke will be presenting there on our parklands. So good for Brooke for doing that presentation. And speaking of presentations, I'll be doing a presentation on Tuesday to the board of the Frontenac Utilities about standard of care for water. And I got invited to Malcolm Lake Cottage Association meeting in June, where they're very interested in the landfill in Malcolm Lake.
Great. Counselor Hermer.
Nothing to report.
Counselor Fowler.
Yes, the Eastern Ontario Trails Alliance, we had a meeting last week on May 8th. The big event that's coming up is the Rockin' the Trails. It's a Ride for Dad supporting group, and that'll be on June 21st in the Tweed area. There will be an invite sent out to all the counselors to attend. That's going to, Cindy Cassidy will be sending that out. Seniors and law enforcement together. Today we had a meeting, our planning meeting, and we're discussing some of the meetings that are going to be happening in the fall. We have May 30th, we have the Stowe Road meeting, and it's going to be, the topic will be wildfires, and somebody from M&R will be doing the presentation. And as far as the lake associations, I hope to be in touch with them very soon, and maybe get to their AGMs. And that's about all I have right now. Thank you.
Okay. Counselor Ingalls is not here for personal reasons, so that ends that. Did I miss something in there? Was on time? No, I don't think so. Well, just so you know, strong mayor powers are were a topic of conversation when the UWC got together. There are some people who appear to have, don't know the reasons, but appear to have taken advantage of them. And there are some people looking for new positions. It's not going to be happening here. So just so what it is. Okay, that brings us to the bylaws.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, second by Counselor Hudel, be it resolved that leave be given to the mover to introduce the following bylaw that has been circulated to all members of council. Bylaw 2025-24 to adopt a fees and charges bylaw, and that this bylaw be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Are there any comments? In favor? Carried. Public forum. Anyone in council chambers or online wish to make a comment on the issues we've discussed today? Jackie, would you come up to that? Would you come up to the table and use the mic, please?
Maybe it's more of a question. I mentioned cemetery fees earlier at the beginning of the meeting. When are the full bylaws going to be going over for those?
Right now.
The ones being done.
They're next.
Okay. So if I have suggestions, concerns, comments about bylaws in those bylaws, would I be able to address those?
Okay, so the part you're in now is really just for you to give us your opinion or voice a comment, one way or the other on items that have been discussed. When we had the public meeting at the very start,
Mhm.
the fees and so on for the cemeteries and whatever, that was your opportunity to provide your comments.
Okay,
And I know you have personal history in that industry, so it would have been more valuable. But at this point in time, we can't take them,
okay.
okay? Good, Kara?
Just wondering, do you have comments about the fees or about the
No, I have comments on the
cemetery
actual
bylaw?
bylaws, yeah.
So that, this is just the fees, but if you have comments about the bylaw itself,
Yes,
I think we could basically possibly benefit from your expertise. And you can just provide them to Tara. Are you good with that? Corey? Okay, can you do that for
Yeah.
us?
when did those have to be, like, when are the bylaws being actually approved by the BAO and?
Bylaws can come back any given time. All right, I'm gonna be wrong here again, I can assure you.
So, I mean, the cemetery bylaw is a bit different than a normal bylaw, so I did bring the cemetery bylaw forward to council. I believe it was March, or April. And so then we're required to do public notice, which I have done. Now, May 1st was the deadline for comments. However, comments can be taken up until the bylaw. But the problem is because it was approved in principle, I have sent it to the BAO because we have to have the province approve it as well. So it's still open. I'm assuming they're going to have some amendments before it gets back to council for the next review. So if you have comments, if you can provide them to me, then I can share them with council. I can also look at how that amendment happens and speak with the BAO as well if I need to. So if you can provide comments in writing, that would be great. Or set up a meeting and come in and see me.
Okay,
Okay?
right.
Fairly shortly, just because I have had it with the BAO for a bit.
Mhm.
So,
I can do it this, for it's Thursday, right? So,
yeah, so like, the end of next week kind of
yeah,
thing?
yeah, I can
Okay,
do it the next.
perfect. All right, thank you.
Thank you, appreciate that. Anyone else? Anybody online, Kelly?
Nobody online.
Okay, we have no closed session. There's nothing to rise and report from confirmatory bylaw.
Moved by Councillor Hudel, second by Councillor Hermer, be resolved that bylaw 2025-25 being a bylaw to confirm all actions and proceedings of council for its regular meeting held May 15, 2025, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Any comments? In favor? Resolution's carried. Adjournment.
Moved by Councillor Hermer, seconded by Councillor Hudel, be it resolved, the council adjourns the meeting at 6:39 PM until June 12, 2025, or at the call of the chair.
Comments? Council? In favor? Carried. You want to get home and watch the rest of the budget for Ontario? Yeah. Thank you.